Good day everyone. So for today's video, we're going to talk about outcome-based education. So let's define what is outcome-based education. Outcome-based education is an educational theory that bases each part of an educational system around goals or outcomes. By the end of the educational experience, each student should have achieved the goal. There is no single specified style of teaching or assessment in outcome-based education. Instead, classes, opportunities, and assessment should all help students achieve the specified outcomes. So we have interviewed some students to what comes into their mind when they hear the word outcome-based education.
Outcome-based education means it is clearly focusing and organizing everything in an educational system around what is essential for all students to be able to do successfully at the end of their learning experiences.
What comes into my mind when I hear about outcome-based education? Outcome-based education, it provides a strategic way to enhance the quality of teaching and learning. It also helps to ensure the approval and accreditation of new and existing programs.
So when I heard the word outcome-based education or OBE, so it means that organizing and focusing and can provide clear focus on the student achievement and lead to better qualification and improve student experiences. And it's also a way to demonstrate and construct activities to lead new skills and knowledge or behavior to take up of the students. And that's all.
Outcome-based education, or the OBE, it means focusing and organizing a school's entire program and instructional effort around the clearly defined outcomes or goals of a particular school.
When I hear the word outcome-based education, I immediately think of goals and achievements. Truly, it is a theory that focuses on achieving the goals being set primarily. It is about what the learners will be able to do after completing the program.
Things that come to mind whenever I hear outcome-based education are assessments and performance standards that are developed and implemented to facilitate key outcomes.
So what is the significance of OBE or the essence of OBE, ladies and gentlemen, is a model of education that rejects the traditional focus on what the school provides to students in favor of making the students demonstrates that they know and are able to do whatever the required outcomes are. OBE reforms emphasize setting clear standards of observable and measurable outcomes. We gathered some videos on the internet regarding OBE or outcome-based education. Let's watch this together!
Hello. Welcome to our assessment of Student Learning 1 class. I am your teacher, Mr. Jayson Goho. Please lend me your attention for this session. In a very simple way to describe the teaching learning process, it is a process happens between the teacher and the student. Before we jump to the discussions of the new focus of education, first I would like to define the very simple term education. So, what is education? Education originated from the terms educare or educare, which meant to draw out. That means extracting the barriers in the student's learning and getting the best of what the students can do and will do. However, for centuries, we believed that education is a pouring-in process where the teachers were considered as the sole source of knowledge and the students were just passive recipients. It followed that the focus of instruction was content and subject matter. We were used to regarding education basically in terms of designating a set of subjects to take, and when the course is completed we pronounce the students are educated. Assuming that the instruction and activities we provided will lead to the desired knowledge, skills, and other attributes that we think the course passers would possess. but the period of technology brought a change in perspective in education, nationally and internationally. The teacher ceased to be the sole source of knowledge. Teacher's role changed from sage on the stage to guide on the side. The teacher has become a facilitator of knowledge who assists in the organization, interpretation, and validation of acquired facts and information. What is outcomes-based education, or OBE? Outcomes-based education is the new educational perspective, in which changes the educational focus from content to outcome. It also puts the students as the center of the educative process. There are 3 characteristics of OBE. 1. It is student-centered. 2. It is faculty-driven. 3. It is meaningful. So, let us define the 3 characteristics of OBE. 1. It is student-centered. That means, it places the students at the center of the process by focusing on student learning outcomes, SLO. 2. It is faculty-driven. That means, it encourages faculty responsibility for teaching, assessing program outcomes, and motivating participation from the students. 3. It is meaningful. That means, it provides data to guide the teacher in making valid and continuing improvement in instruction and assessment activities. To implement outcomes-based education on the subject or course level, the following procedure is recommended. 1. Identification of the educational objectives of the subject/course. 2. Listing of learning outcomes specified for each subject/course objective. 3. Drafting outcomes assessment procedure. To understand the procedure, I will discuss it one at a time. 1. Listing of the educational objectives of the subject/course. So, what are educational objectives? Educational objectives are the broad goals that the subject/course expects to achieve, and defining in general terms the knowledge, skills, and attitude that the teacher will help the students to attain. The objectives are stated from the point of view of the teacher, such as, to develop, to provide, to enhance, to inculcate, etc. 2. Listing of learning outcomes specified for each subject/course objective. Since subject/course objectives are broadly stated, they do not provide detailed guide to be reachable and measurable. Learning outcomes are stated as concrete active verbs such as, to demonstrate, to explain, to differentiate, etc. A good source of learning outcome statements is the Taxonomy of Educational Objectives by Benjamin Bloom. Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives is grouped into 3, namely, cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. The cognitive is called the knowledge, refers to mental skills such as remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, synthesizing/creating. The psychomotor is also referred to as skills, includes manual or physical skills, which proceed from mental activities and range from the simplest to the complex such as observing, imitating, practicing, adapting, and innovating. The affective is also known as attitude, refers to growth in feelings or emotions from the simplest behavior to the complex such as receiving, responding, valuing, organizing, and internalizing. 3. Drafting outcomes assessment procedure. This procedure will enable the teacher to determine the degree to which the students are attaining the desired learning outcomes. It identifies for every outcome the data that will be gathered, which will guide the selection of the assessment tools to be used and at what point assessment will be done. To recap our learned lesson for this session, we have 1. The shift of educational focus from content to outcome, which the new perspective is called the outcomes-based education, or OBE. 2. The 3 characteristics of OBE we have: student-centered, faculty-driven, meaningful. 3. The procedure to implement OBE we have: identification of the educational objectives of the subject, listing of learning outcomes specified for each subject, drafting outcomes assessment procedure. 4. A good source of learning outcomes statement, the Bloom's taxonomy, which is grouped to 3. We have the cognitive, psychomotor, and affective.
That is all for outcome-based education. I hope you've learned something from this video. Thank you for watching.